That's another conversation. But what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Milwaukee's #1 business podcast, and is where I come from with me, Mr. Tone Deaf. I am back in the building on what can only be dubbed as the last Friday of a very, very hectic April for us. For you guys who've been rocking with me for a long time, you guys know that Tone Deaf Radio started about 12 years ago in the month of April, and we've been making a lot of moves and changes in here. So, first and foremost, I want to go ahead and let everybody know, make sure you check us out on all streaming platforms. That's Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever else you find your podcast at. And make sure you download the new Tone Deaf Radio app. It's where podcasts first and everything else is extra, where we now have a 24/7 radio station that is heavy, and I do repeat, heavy on the podcast guys. We got a lot of excellent shows on there. So if you haven't been listening to some of us here, make sure you check them out on there. Literally with some dope conversation. Hell, there was some episodes I completely forgot about that I did. It was funny as hell listening to myself again. But that's not what you're here for. You are actually here today because we are going to talk about something that I feel like is not talked about enough in the Black community, and it is wellness. We as Black people have a tendency of waiting until the last minute when it's too late to be able out here looking to see what we can do to better ourselves. We tend to find ourselves eating foods that we know for a fact is not good for us, but we like it because we taste good. And then when we got food that are good for us, we smother in extra junk on top of that. So, of course, I am not an expert in this field because I'm fat. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. I am not an expert in this field, but I am always willing to learn about how to change up my lifestyle because if y'all know me, y'all know I got 2 girls at 7 and 10, and I'm in my 40s, and I definitely want to make sure I live long enough to at least be able to threaten their boyfriends when they're in high school or whatnot. But so I have company today. I don't like to do this show by myself, so I am joined by this lovely young lady who's immediately to the center of the screen if you're watching it, but she's on my right, and she's going to go ahead and actually help me out. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Talk into the microphone because I know you all the way over there.
Hello. I'm Adrienna Edwards. I have a business called Edwards Wellness.
Okay.
Where I do herbalist tea blends. We talk about herbs. So I've been kind of incorporating more conversations and doing consults.
I'm talking about herbs.
Herbs. And I also do massages. So I'm a masseuse, not a massage therapist. There is a difference.
What is the difference?
I do it for relaxation. So I don't have all the technicality of someone who goes to school and studies all the aspects of massage therapy. I do it based on feel and based on sensation. I'm not going like deeply into it in that way. So if you've been injured and you're looking for, pain relief specifically, I always refer to you. I would refer you to somebody else that I do trust, but that is licensed in that way.
Okay.
I keep it light.
That's cool. That's definitely a cool thing. So let's go ahead and let's start with the most important question. What made you start your business?
COVID. All right.
Hey, don't get mad because so many businesses started during COVID.
You got time, and that's what kind of happened. We were watching the news. We were freaked out and scared, and we didn't know what to expect. And I'm like, I'll be darned if I'm taken out by something that we don't even really know nothing about.
Right.
I started researching all of these symptoms as they were coming out and what people were saying they were going through. And then I started looking up natural, holistic ways to remedy those things. So then it kind of went haywire crazy from there because I bought so many herbs and I started testing in my kitchen and using my family as guinea pigs. I got several recipes for different types of like elderberry brews. If you are just like just let me drink it and go about my day.
What is elderberry anyway? And why is it so important? Because I've been seeing because the reason why, because for the first time, was it this week or last week? So about last week, I went to Honeybee Sage over on King Drive.
Miss Angela. Hey.
Right, Miss Angela. Shout out to her. She used to be here in Sherman, Phoenix with us before she moved and got that spot over there. And I was looking at their menu. And it's funny because for it to be a tea shop, they have a menu. Like it is a lot of choices and selections on there in regards to what you can do and how you can do it. And a lot of them did have elderberry in it. then everybody kept talking about how good it is for the body and the whole 9 yards. But like, what is it, and why are we just now getting into it? Because I've recently just started hearing about it in like the last 5 years.
Yeah. In a nutshell, elderberry is a berry that packs a big punch. It's got more vitamins, zinc, and other minerals in it.
Okay.
The compounds of how it breaks down in our system will help alleviate cold symptoms, flu symptoms. If you're congested, if you need a boost in your immune system, its primary purpose is to operate that way.
Right.
So, of course, here come COVID, all these respiratory.
Right.
What are we looking at? We're looking at holistic ways. So a lot of these companies that had smaller elderberry products on the shelves years ago, all of a sudden started making larger bottles and
Right.
selling out, and everybody's looking for elderberry this, elderberry that, and it is one of those things where it kind of got really popular
Right.
because of the world really and what we were going through at the
Which
time.
makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
But it definitely makes sense. It was just one of those things that I've started to see it more. And I don't know if it's somebody who just recently found out about its healing factors, or are we just now utilizing it because it's an alternative to dealing with actual regular pharmaceutical medicines in regards to it. So that was one of my biggest curiosities in regards to that.
Oh, for sure.
All right. So my mind went blank, but
Oh, that's good.
not for a bad
I was going
thing.
to add in a little extra.
No, keep going.
Okay,
Go ahead
cool.
while I'm trying to get my mind back.
So when you call yourself an herbalist, there are some that grew up around plants. I was one of those. So I'm a nature girl anyway. I love to be outside, and I was in the fields and picking flowers, and I'd bring all this stuff home. My mom was like, please stop bringing all this stuff. If you're one of those kids who pick the dandelions into a little bundle and a bouquet, and you showed your mom, like, Mommy, here's some flowers. That was me. Okay, I love the kids like that, because I'm like, you're exploring and you don't even realize it. So you have that way of kind of like living your life through herbs and learning about plants and stuff like that, and then you can like zone in on the understanding of it.
Right.
Others go to school specifically for it. There's not even a real degree, but there's certifications where you can go to schools and they are teaching you hands-on methods, teaching the compounds and all the biological backgrounds of plants and all that stuff.
Right.
But the basics is, I'm more on the folk medicine side. Okay, if this works for this is what we're going to always use.
Right.
And that's one of those things that come from our ancestors.
Right.
And each culture of person has an ancestor in that region that use some kind of plant medicine to heal or to fix or to mend or to help get along whatever ailed them.
Right.
Plants have literally been the medicine, has been around for so long, past all of us, and I think I'll outlive all of us too, if I'm being honest. But yeah.
Okay. So you started your business.
I did.
Okay. How was that first year in the business? Because what you're looking at wellness during the peak of a COVID situation, during a pandemic of something that people were still not believing. How did that affect your business?
It was a lot of trial and error, and it was ironic because when I would say, "Oh, this worked really well for us," hey, y'all sick over there, y'all need a little of this. I was almost using family and friends as a little guinea pigs too.
Right.
But they would, like, one family friend, her daughter had gotten sick. They didn't know if it was COVID or not.
Right.
She was 1.5.
Okay.
The elderberry that I made specifically, I'll list a couple ingredients for y'all. You have your elderberry, you have echinacea, you have ginger in there. You have different compounds in there that's going to help boost the immune system, break down the digestion, because sometimes the sickness can just stay in the gut. We can get on that a little bit later. And I put a little bit of honey in there because I know after 1 year old, you can safely have a little bit of honey.
Right.
So sent her over a batch. She said 2 days later, she was like, girl, she was lit. I said, what? She's like, she was hype. She went from no energy to like energy. And she was like, honestly, that wiped her cold out in 48 hours.
Right.
And I was like, okay, 48 hours. So then I would say to another family, hey, you're not feeling so well as an adult or what have you. So I was giving out samples. I was giving out tea blends because I wanted to see how they were going to affect the person in a positive way.
Right.
After we had already tried them at home. And it kind of just was family and friends for that first year. It wasn't a whole lot of public anything. And I'm starting to get public now.
Right.
But it took a little bit. It's kind of scary.
Why?
Because you're already like, oh my God, the COVID, and then you're seeing all these numbers every day almost. Like,
The
all these
numbers
people are
were
dying.
numbers were going crazy in regards to
Man.
it.
And it was just one of those things like you want to help so bad, but you hope to goodness that whatever you're going to give them is going to work
Right.
quickly because
Exactly.
you're not sure if they've got the cocoa.
Did you ever have a situation where you gave something to somebody and it didn't work the way that they thought it was going to work?
Yes, and
Okay.
normally what that is a time frame.
Okay.
We used to pharmaceutical medicines where after the instructions say take this 2 times a day for 4 to 6 days, you're good,
Right.
and then we know we're good.
Right.
Natural medicine, it has to align itself with your body.
Right.
For tea, I always tell people, hey, if you're going to do a tea blend specific for a health reason, 2 times a day, because that tea, the compounds in that herbal blend is going to break down one inside of your stomach
Okay.
and then again inside of your digestive system.
Okay.
So it can't just go a whole hog. It's gotta break itself down to get through your whole body. So it's gonna take a couple of days. Be patient with yourself.
Okay.
That's usually what I let people know.
Okay. So outside of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
what were some of the biggest things that people came to you for?
Anxiety.
Okay, let's talk about
Anxiety and depression.
Let's talk about that.
That tripped me out.
Why?
And it made sense because of COVID and the isolation.
Okay.
Those who don't have families and all that kind of stuff, they were like alone.
True.
You're alone with your thoughts.
And that's a scary thing for some people.
For some people, it's terrifying.
Okay. So what are some common things that you were giving people when it came to help them with their anxiety and their depression? Because depression is real. Okay.
Oh yes.
It's definitely real, and especially because I'm a very urbanized podcast. And the Black community is very heavy. Fun fact that you may not know, but my listeners do know. This network was born out the fact that I was battling depression.
Stop
and
it.
I needed an avenue to be able to communicate my thoughts. Okay. I'm an active thinker. Sometimes I lose sleep because of that. I'm an active thinker. I'm always thinking about the next move in regards to it. During the time frame when I initially started doing TDR Network, the unemployment rate was extremely high. This is back in like 2010, 2011. Employment rate was almost at 10% in regards to it. I was an individual who went from working 2 jobs to having no job. And then not only not having no job, but having a hard time finding a good job.
Yes.
Because I would go and apply for a job and it'll be like, well, you're overqualified because my skill set was phenomenal. And it took me a long time to figure out what overqualified meant.
Exactly.
But then after a while, I sat down with one of my older mentors and they told me when an individual tells you that you're overqualified, they're fearful of 2 things. One, you're not going to want to stay in this role for long. You're just using this role in this current moment in time to allow yourself opportunities to find a job that you're satisfied with. So as a business, I don't want someone who's not going to be here for at least a year so I could financially get my money's worth out of you in so many words.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second thing is you are not going to be okay with the level of incompetency of management that is above you, because you probably can walk in here, do this job, do their job, and probably do my job. So why would you want to be at the entry level when I don't have positions to move you up to the upper level? So once again, within that 1 year frame, you might quit simply because you can't move up in a company that has a ceiling on the first floor. So that's usually what they mean when they say you're overqualified. Oh, and then the final one. You're definitely going to want more money than what they're offering you.
Always.
Okay. Because your skill set supersedes what this job is. So a lot of times that was their cop out to say, well, we can't afford you, or you too big for what we got here, or you're too smart for what we got here. I'm not going to hire you. So when you hear that so much, not overqualified, just well, we don't have nothing right now, we don't have this, we don't have that. Even people who were those jobs that you used to be able to just walk into and be like, oh yeah, we'll hire anybody. Oh yeah, we got a hiring freeze going on right now, we're not hiring anybody. So it really put me in a state of depression. A lot of things in my life started going away: houses, cars, whole 9 yards. A lot of stuff got kind of taken out the equation. So I went to depression. My brother, who was trying to start a rap career, time wanted to say, "Hey, man, I be doing this thing on Blog Talk where I just talk for a little bit and play my music because my music got to be heard." That was his whole thought process.
Mm-hmm.
So we took that and we flipped it and we just started our own show. Then when I realized that I was finally getting unemployment and I was paying for what the equivalent of a network was, I had 600 days nobody were doing anything. So one of those days I just used it to talk, just get stuff off my head, have random conversations with people who I knew, or we just talked about stuff, and then give the other 5 days to somebody else. Different people came in and different things, and we never stopped moving.
Period.
But it all began on the back of basically being depressed to the point where I had no outlet. So COVID is a prime example of individuals have no outlet. As a black community, because I know I just went off on a little small tangent there.
That's a beautiful tangent.
The black community has a tendency of not having avenues to be able to vent. We were told growing up that you don't want the people in your business. So it gets to the point where we look at therapy as weird. Okay.
Man.
We look at therapy as being weird. Don't nobody want to sit here and talk to somebody and tell them everything. Number two, we don't want to go ahead and, like you said, people don't like to sit with their own thoughts because it's easier for you to go out on social media and say all men ain't shit. But it's hard for you to sit down and take accountability of what you've done wrong in your last few relationships.
Mm-mm.
It's hard for you to understand that, well, maybe my behaviors of like this really wasn't what it was supposed to be like.
Yeah.
Or maybe being a brat is not the way life is supposed to be. Maybe I do need to grow the fuck up, you know, and I can't continue to be this type of mentality.
Yeah.
So a lot of time, these things right here make it difficult for people to sit back and have those conversations. And I know we're talking about wellness, but mental health is one of those big
That's part of
ones
it.
that people look past. I guarantee you 97% of the things that we would do, we probably would do if we had more of a healthier mind.
Yes.
Okay. We hold on to past traumas. Some of them we don't even know it is trauma. Like lately, I have noticed that there's a huge influx. And I know this is probably take a small little dark detour, but somebody got to go in the alleys.
Mm.
We are now getting to the point where a lot of men are starting to accept the fact that they were taken advantage of when they were younger by older women. Um, and it's actually starting to be a lot more prominent and a lot more accepting to talk on that because before you would have young men who thought it was a rite of passage
Yep.
that they slept with an older woman and they thought it was cool because here you are 17, 18 years old and you done got busy with this 28, 29, 30-year-old
Mhm.
woman. And in actuality, you got preyed upon, you know? And it's like, yeah, it was a good time, but did you not once ever think, why was this older woman coming for you? You know, what was so wrong with her that she wanted a young child who had barely had any idea of life to be her sexual experience? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And now, as a man, there's a lot of things you look at in life and you think that's okay. And the double standards of society is, yeah, let's cheer the young man who slept with an older woman, but let's brutalize and chastise the older man who slept with a young girl. Or, oh, he has to be tricking or cashing out for this 35, 40-year-old man to be wanting to deal with a 21, 22-year-old woman. It should be equal in regards to it. And our society, we don't look at that.
We don't.
Then let's take the fact when we look at mental health of how we handle special needs situations.
Mm.
I have a special needs autistic brother.
Okay.
My partner in crime, he has an autistic sister. One of my long-term friends, she has an autistic son. We're starting to see more and more of these scenarios where a lot of kids are being diagnosed as autistic.
Mhm.
but people don't know what that means.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm not going to have a long conversation about what autism is because it is a spectrum. Just like there's multiple colors in a crayon box, no two autistic person is the same. Okay. It's not like a person with Down syndrome where they all look alike, which is funny to me, but they all look alike. Show me the lie. Okay.
You just gave me a kid thought. This was when I was younger. I was
Right.
at Mayfair, and this little girl, she had Down syndrome. She had the cutest little pigtails, and she was adorable. And
Right.
and it tickled my heart, so I laughed. I was like, "Oh my god!" And her father thought that we were laughing at her, and he got so mad. He threw away whatever they were eating and just
Right.
stormed out with her. And I'm just like, and it was like one of those misunderstandings. But I
Right.
just thought about that.
It's a misunderstanding, but I think at the same time, for some parents, they have to learn how to accept that their kids is different. I was sitting here having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and the funniest thing in the world was we were talking about how there was this individual in the wheelchair, right? Individual in the wheelchair having care in the world, like just living his life, doing what he's doing. And the individual in the wheelchair was like, one of the things he hates when people come up to him and pity him for being in a wheelchair. And it was funny because when we were talking to him, he was like, "Bitch, I don't know how to be nothing other than a person in a wheelchair.
So you don't know you missing nothing.
So
right
what you are thinking is a good life. I've never experienced it. I'm cool with where I'm in the wheelchair.
Yep.
I love what I can do.
Yeah.
While you have to walk from section C, part Z, guess what? I'm at the front motherfucking door. You know, there's a section at every concert that's geared just for me.
Yes.
So, and it is always a great view. You know what I'm saying? I get people who see me. Do you know? Because he's a younger dude. He was like, "Do you know how many bitches love to sit in my wheelchair and roll with me?" like, and it was the funny part was because we never looked at him as, "Oh, he's in a wheelchair. Let's look at." No, we talk about him and we kick it with him and we have fun with him. And he said that's one of the things that he loved about us. He's like, "Bro, I love kicking it with you. And all the years I've known you, I love being around you because you don't see this. You see me. And because you see me, you've never seen anything else.
Right.
So you don't see the fact that I'm in a wheelchair. You don't see the fact that my legs are not as strong as your legs." He's like, "Of course, because your upper body's stronger than mine." So I say it balances out. I'll be messing with him. We joke like that. So because it's you. You are a human being at the end of the day. If you've always been in a wheelchair, what else are you supposed to be? You don't know what it's like to go hike 5 miles. But guess what? You don't have to. Right. It's not fun anyway. But it's a lot of things that no, you can't do, but there's a lot of things you can do that will never be able to experience it from your point of view. Therefore, maybe we should be jealous of you in some cases. And sometimes I sit there, I say that. Like sometimes I'm jealous of you. Like I gotta walk up a flight of stairs. You'll never have to worry about that. Exactly. You never have to worry about that. But you can still live your life. There's nothing that you can't do, to my knowledge, that you don't want to do. See, that's the difference. It's one thing when you've been able to walk or run or do all these things all your life, and then it's been taken away from you. Right. So I can see the depression, the struggle, "oh, I hope he's okay" mentality, because you lost something that you once experienced, and either A, you took this experience for granted, or you covered your whole beings around it. That's why Doctor Strange is one of my favorite characters, because his origin story, which they did a really good job in the movie is literally that. His whole first movie is all about accepting the fact that you lost something that you coveted. So now you have to become a better person. He went broke. I'm talking broke, trying to get his hands back when he could have been spending that opportunity to learn everything he learned, to learn how to live a better life. He could have became a teacher and teach people how to do what he does, but he coveted the fact that he had really good hands. And you know the irony behind it? If you pay attention to his whole story after that, he's never been able to get his hands back right, where he has a constant shake naturally now. So now he's learned to accept that he's a very powerful being that can go above and beyond anything that he valued himself at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Same thing I say with my friend. My friend is in a wheelchair. He doesn't look past that. He got a whole house customized for him to be able to move around in his wheelchair and do normal shit to him. Why would he complain about anything in life?
Exactly.
Okay. The only thing he gets mad at me about is because he can't come downstairs in my studio. Because I don't have that. This building doesn't have elevator because the original structure of the building was never meant for anybody to be in the basement. That didn't work here because this used to be a bank first.
Oh God. Okay.
Yeah. So they didn't have it set up. So that's the only thing that he gets mad. Like, hey, bro, I can't come to the studio. I said, man, they ain't never gonna stop us from recording.
Right.
You know, I come to you. I'm mobile too.
Hey.
But enough about me going off on my tangent in regards to
I
it.
like that. That's all relevant information.
It is
all relevant examples. Wellness. That's why I tell people too. I said wellness is not just eat right, exercise, and get enough sleep. Your mental is huge.
It is, and you know what's funny? All of those three things help with your mental too.
I wasn't gonna say that, but okay. So let's segue really quick.
Okay,
I'm gonna
we here now. We here now. We friends now. Let's talk. Don't talk about me and my soda because this is my.
Come in May, I'm gonna be starting to work on my colon hydrotherapy certification, so I can start doing colonics.
That is nasty, but
it is nasty, and I am so ready to do it.
Why did you want to do that?
So, what are colonics?
Isn't that when they stick a tube up your butt and suck all the whatever from your stomach?
All the whatever's in your intestines out.
Okay.
So here's the deal. A colonic is not something that our community knows much about.
You don't know about colonostomies until you were 50 and you're forced to do.
Right, exactly. So you're doing that in the doctor's office. They get some nasty medicine. They sit you there. You got to stick it. There's no cameras in this situation. But I would tell you that our community could really, really benefit from it. And when I say really, really, I mean, these are real big font size, extra exclamation points at the end, really. Like, this is a big thing. Our gut holds at least 70% of our overall body health.
Right.
If you eat bad and you don't poop every day. Oh, and let me correct that. Let me make my statistic correct. Over 72% of the world is constipated by definition.
I can believe that.
By definition, which means constipation is when you're not going 3 to 5 times per day.
Why should a human body be going to the bathroom that much?
Yes. I'm so glad you asked. How many times are we eating per day? Yeah.
See, hold on. Let's pause right there. Because that's, like you said, the way we eat, the way we put in our body changes. Not everybody eats 3 meals a day.
That's true. Some people eat one big meal a day and they snack.
People only eat once a day in the afternoons. Yep. Or like me, I may only eat the equivalence of lunchtime.
Okay.
Like I might eat what's at lunch because I already know I have an 8 to 9 hour shift at work, and based on what I already have scheduled here at TDR, I may or may not be here for another 3 to 4 hours.
Right.
So I might eat one big one, or it won't even be big because you can't eat too big or you be sleep at work. I might eat lunch, the equivalent of lunch, and then I may or may not eat again later on after 7 or 8 o'clock. Okay. So if I only eat once a day, I might poop once a day.
Did you say might?
Might.
Aha.
Because here's the reason why I have to say might.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you're not active in any shape or form, so with so many people working from home now, or so many desk related jobs, I'm sitting here. My food is sitting here. 97% of the reasons why I got a gut was because the minute I stopped having a physical job and started having a desk job, my food had nowhere to go and it didn't need to. Now, do I poop? Of course I do. I'm not backed up or anything like that, but I might not go 3 to 5 times a day, because when a person goes that much, that's when people think something's wrong, not you're healthy.
And that is some of the stigma we gotta break. I'm glad you did say that, because I know several people who are on a 1 meal a day schedule and they just not hungry like that. Right. Or they'll do coffee or something that curbs their appetite.
I definitely do coffee. So that would explain why I only do 1 meal a day too.
The body needs to have time to break it down, to digest it, and then to absorb it.
Right.
Get the nutrients that it needs out, and then go ahead and empty the waste bucket. But what happens is, let's say we're having a stressful day, our guts are going to get clenched up and tightened.
Right.
There are emotional responses throughout our colon. Our colon is kind of like a square. It starts on the right, transverse, adverse. Don't let me start. I ain't getting my classes.
Yeah, don't get technical.
So it goes up, side, and then down.
Okay.
That's the colon, not the intestines. The intestines is that 5.5 foot of extra stuff that
That's
has
that
to get through.
that's that chill out space.
So that chill out space is where all that waste may not come through
Okay.
to the colon to finish out its process.
Makes sense.
So our bodies really should be emptying our waste on a regular basis.
Okay.
We should be ideally using the bathroom right before our meals.
Okay.
So what happens normally? We poop after we eat.
Because we don't have space no more, and it's really just pushing itself
Just
down.
pushing itself on out.
Gotcha. Okay.
So colonics I always recommend, and I will even do this once I get rolling out, do your colonics in a set. You can do them once every 24 hours. Again, I'm just going off on a tangent. I'll
No,
get back.
go ahead. Roll with it.
So you're on the table. They're going to insert through your butt hole, not all the way up in there, just a little bit of space. Because a lot of men are like, wait, hold on. So y'all hear me out. It's totally worth it, by the way. That warm water filters itself through your colon, and it's going to first, your colon's literally going to start to drink all that water.
Okay.
The first colonic is typically a hydration.
Okay.
Your bodies are naturally dehydrated because for some reason what we do, or the climate that we're in, or maybe the processed foods that we might eat.
Definitely the processed foods
they got stuff in there that does not allow that water that we need to be drinking to absorb in our systems. Or we're not drinking the water. That's one of the other
it's the preservatives that keeps the food able to be out on shelves. It gets into our bodies, and it helps our bodies. Think about it. Certain foods are not meant to sit out for more than 24 hours. Yet and still, we can have whole packaged meats in the freezer sitting out, being able to be picked up. We have pastas that are really just water and flour pressed and processed into something. We have preservatives in our canned goods that allows some peaches to stay fresh for over a year on the shelf without anybody. So you got to think about, we're not going farm to table like that. Okay,
we're not eating life.
We're far from that. Okay, so when we look at the foods, even our so-called good foods, they're still going to have a side effect, because in order to make them possible for us to get them, they still have to have something done to them that changes the nature of it. And of course, if the food changes the nature, then it changes us.
And henceforth, all the health issues.
Right.
So your first colonic is going to hydrate you.
Okay.
That's also going to soften up any of that hard waste that's gotten stuck to the lining of your colon. And that hard waste, that's the problematic stuff, because that's the stuff that's probably been there for years.
Right.
That's the stuff that, as it's dried and just decayed, is releasing toxins into your bloodstream.
Okay.
Which is going to release on them toxic bloodstream vessels, or I'm not even using the right word, but blood into different organs with the toxic components to it, which is going to cause the high blood pressure, the diabetes, all these other things when you're accompanying it without eating properly.
We all know, okay, in the Black community, we don't eat properly. Okay. We joke around about this here on TDR more than anything, because it popped up on our timeline a while ago, and it's always been the funniest thing in the world. Have you ever watched Soul Food?
Oh, of course.
Okay. What was the whole premise of Soul Food? No, but the movie itself. What was the whole premise?
It was so basically the Black family.
Okay.
What Soul Food did for us.
Okay.
And then you get to see all them.
You ever watch? You ever watch the Boondocks?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen a couple episodes.
All right. So there's this one particular episode that stands out to us all the time. So Riley decides to break down the premise of Soul Food from a perspective that most people in the Black community don't think about. Okay. What did they do every Sunday?
We eat.
Okay. They got together as a whole family and they ate. What did they eat?
Fried chicken.
What else?
macaroni and cheese,
What else?
greens, pinto beans, cornbread, candy yams,
Okay.
potato salad.
All right. All good. All good. What happened to Big Mama?
Oh, Big Mama died
How did she die?
of all
She died of what?
high cholesterol, diabetes,
Okay.
you name it.
Okay. So Big Mama died.
Yeah.
And we're not going to talk about the rest of the movie because there's a lot of family fuckery that went on right there, right?
True.
Okay. What did they do to honor Big Mama's legacy?
They ate.
They what?
They ate.
So Big Mama, who's been cooking these meals all these years, led to her demise. And by honoring Big Mama, you turn back around and you eat the same damn foods that killed her.
Because it gives you comfort.
It gives you diabetes.
It does give you diabetes.
So, in the Black community, I understand that we need reasons to come together. Let Uncle Ray throw a barbecue, or let little Jimmy decide that he wants to go ahead and have a
Yeah.
cookout by the house, and we come together for food. It's just a natural thing for Black people. Go to a park, someone's firing up a grill. Black folks can always come over there and enjoy some processed hot dogs and a few, slabs of dead pig and stuff like that. And then every once in a while, you have that random person who comes over there with an impossible burger. Hey man, can you cook
That's
this
me.
for me? Can you cook this for me? I don't eat meat. Okay.
Oh,
I don't eat meat.
I
So
get
now
some
the
mushroom
whole
caps, yeah.
now the whole cookout is spending the rest of the time under their breath
Whisper about your
talking
healthy
about
sandwich.
you, talking about your healthy burger. You got the cook over there talking to his friend with a bear. Man, I ain't putting that mess on my grill. You're gonna hear that. But it's the fact that we look down at healthy choices as something that's wrong. Yet in
Yes.
still growing up, our parents. Okay, first of all, how old are you, if I may ask?
I'm 33.
Okay, so you might be old enough to have this kind of
Oh,
household.
I was in the kitchen with all
Okay.
big mamas and
Right.
aunties.
You
cooking.
said that's what I said. You
That's
may
what
be
I
old.
was.
You may be old enough to have experiences. But the one thing that Big Mama, Grandmama, or Mama, whatever you call her,
Mhm.
or Auntie, if she was the one doing the cooking, was they always made sure that there was a couple of vegetables on the plates in
Yes.
regards to it. And
Absolutely.
you were not allowed to leave the table until you finished the vegetables.
Yeah.
So no matter whatever the meat process was in regard to it, or what starch she may have next to it, you could not leave the table until you finished your vegetables.
Mhm.
Yet and still, as we got older, we strayed away from the requirements of having vegetables.
Yes.
A lot of it has to do because we're more on the go now than ever before. So we rely mostly on what we can get from fast food restaurants. But it's always the main course of the meal that we care about. Um, Chicken is probably my go-to thing. Okay. I had told my friends growing up that chicken is my food of choice because, to be honest with you, you can cook chicken in 100 different ways.
Oh, for sure.
If I can only choose one food and one food only, it would be chicken because I don't have to eat chicken the same way.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be fried. It can be fried. It can be baked. It can be sauteed.
Mhm.
It could be air fryer. It could you could just eat it raw. I mean, I don't suggest doing that, but if you sushi
No,
wrap
please
it, you might be able to get away with something.
Mm-mm.
But
Salmonella.
you could, but still, what I'm saying is there's multiple different ways. It's how you season it. And at the end of the day, no matter what, people who don't eat meat always say something tastes like chicken. So I feel like chicken is the way to go.
They do say that.
Everything
That's
is supposed to taste like chicken.
hilarious.
Whenever you try something that's not chicken, they always say, it tastes like chicken. No, it doesn't. It tastes like what it is, but in your head, you either seasoned
You're
it,
gonna
you either seasoned it the
familiarize it.
same way as
Mhm.
chicken,
Yep.
or they cooked it the same way you cook chicken. So that's why you familiarize it with chicken. So I always choose chicken. But you're a vegan,
I am.
okay? So I know that was all
No,
wild ass
with that
drive just to get to you're
No,
vegan.
because that last one, that's valid. Because I literally I will saute and cook some portobello mushroom caps like a steak,
Right. And
and I will cut in them and eat
and
them
that'd be the
with a
one.
baked potato.
So let me ask you a question. You're a vegan, right? Okay. Are you hey, I want to eat healthy vegan, or are you one of those vegans that like to remind people of what they're eating is not right?
I will not do that
Okay.
because here's why. And after high school, I went to culinary school.
Okay.
I didn't finish. I just did the apprenticeship program, but I
It's a start.
love to cook. Always have. I was the toddler that when they say, "Hey, y'all go play," I went on in the kitchen because I knew that something was about to happen in that magical pot on the stove. And I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to know what was happening in the kitchen. My granny, my mom, I was raised on not only good food, but the skills to make it.
Right.
So I will never knock a person for what they eat, including like chitlins. And my face might look like this, like, oh girl, but I'm not gonna say you can't eat what you eat.
I don't knock what a person eats, with the exception of certain type of crustaceans, because sometimes, this is not towards you,
Go for it.
but sometimes you bitches be going a little bit overboard for crab legs. It's not
Seafood
that.
boiled.
It's not that goddamn serious. Okay, barely get anything out of it. Y'all spend most of y'all
love sauce.
y'all be doing
Y'all be grubbing.
doing
I
entirely
love it.
doing entirely too goddamn much in the name of a fucking crab leg
And that's expensive.
for no reason. And you know what's funny? Crabs and lobsters or anything of a crustacean, I feel like is probably the most inhumane food you can cook, because you have to cook it alive.
You have to cook it up. Yeah.
You have to cook it alive. So,
Well, excuse me. Some of them are, you get them out the deli, they're already dead.
but they killed them to get them to that point, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So no, not really. Like, we're not going from hot boiling water where I just dropped a whole crab into plate. No, at least, that cow may have gotten taken down properly. I'm not. We're not gonna go there. We don't know. We don't know what they do there. No, but well, at the end of the day, it's when we go to the restaurant to get this cow, it's been dead for a minute. Okay. Yes. Nobody went out back, pulled the trigger, and then was like, all right, so what part of the cow you want? No, it's been dead for a minute. It should, but then you get old. I don't know if I want I don't know if I want milk and then burgers directly from Betsy that fast, I don't even want to know which cow went down for this burger.
Gosh.
For this burger. Okay. But I get it. Because all I'm saying is, in order to be able to eat a lobster, you literally take it out the tank. Ooh, I want that one. They go in the back and then drop it from cold water to hot water. And
it screams.
And we know it screams. And then we just like, throw some butter on it. That right there. First of all, I'm allergic to seafood, so I'm glad I can't eat it regardless. But the simple fact of realizing that that's what they do, I couldn't eat it if I did know it. If I could, I still wouldn't eat it. Plus, lately, I don't know what's going on with my timeline, but they've been showing a lot of weird exotic foods, and foods are being prepared. And then what happens when lemon is introduced to it? It's been things like skint frogs, and then all of a sudden you squeeze the lemon on it, and the muscles contract, because that's what lemon does to the muscles.
Acidic.
Yeah, the acidic nature of it, it causes the muscles to move. And it's even some where little oysters are opening up and blossoming like it's go time in the bedroom. And I'm like, this is what y'all want to eat? No. Y'all can keep that. I'm glad I can't eat none of that, because that's weird. That's wild, fam.
Yes, a couple of years ago, before I decided to be vegan. Okay, I've only been vegan. I can't even talk. Vegan for a couple of years.
That's cool.
About 3 years.
So basically, pandemic. Yeah. Eggs got expensive. You said, fuck this shit. I'm not eating it anyway.
Listen, I just stopped it because I was like, I'm going to get healthy. The herbs were on deck. I was doing that. And then I was like, you know what? Just scratch the meat and stuff. And I dropped weight quick. And I was like, whoa, that was crazy. And then it was like, okay, but you got to figure out how to sustain your eating. Because when you turn into no protein in the animal weight, then you literally are burning everything you eat like this.
So what were you using as a substitute? Because I know that's some of the biggest issues that people are having while trying to transition. Like, every once in a while, I'll go on this cleanse where, okay, fuck you vegans, I need my bacon. Okay. I just don't eat it. I just don't eat it enough that it bothers me. But I could never go completely like meatless. But one of my biggest issues with the transition was I can't eat seafood. So I didn't have a lot of different substitutes, which is how I was able to get down to chicken. Okay. So for a long time, chicken was my only meat source. And all I had to do was figure out a way to replace proteins from chicken. As a vegan, I know there's more choices now ever than before. Like my homegirl Butterfly, her whole catering business.
Buddha butterfly. Hey girl.
Her whole business is based around finding ways to make vegan food delicious and sexy. Food be sexy as hell.
She do, yes, girl. She brings it.
But up until recently, like I said, what are some other alternatives instead of just going out and buying Impossible Burgers? Or because back in the days it used to be like tofu, and it was like, ugh, fuck
it
you.
It still is.
Okay.
Still is tofu. Tofu is still on the menu.
What the fuck is tofu?
Tofu, yeah. So tofu is actually a soy bean.
See, I just do bean there.
Beans, right? And I love beans. Beans are a great source of fiber, and I will hands down eat me some beans quick. I love mushrooms. I love tofu type things. So maybe not exactly tofu. Sometimes I'm just not in the mood for the spongy thing. Right. Even though if you cook it right or you make a good sauce and you can soak it, it'll absorb all that flavor.
See, that's what scares me about it, because tofu is absorbing everything. So it's a sponge.
Well, you gotta remember, it comes from that bean.
But it's still a sponge. It's a beanie sponge. And I'm putting the sponge in my body when we clearly just had a conversation about cleaning your system because everything is absorbed. So if I'm putting something in my body that clearly absorbs all the fluids to make it taste good, and I put it in my body where my body's already struggling to keep fluids in it, how is this beneficial?
So tofu starts out as beans.
Okay.
And they soak them. They peel off the skin. They blend them in some water. They strain them. They may blend them again till it's a smooth. And then they literally they pack it tight and they refrigerate it, and that's what causes it to solidify.
Right.
So it's not really a sponge in there, but
I know. I like messing with people about that.
Mushrooms is like one of my go-tos.
Mushrooms is one of my favorite foods. So I realized that is literally like probably where my transition would start because I love mushrooms.
Cool.
Okay. What was I getting ready to say? So outside of mushroom, what are other alternatives?
I always say this weird, but it's not Satan, it's satin. SET.
I like wearing satin. It feels good on the skin.
Look, no, not that
satin. Oh, okay.
This is a
Sorry, my bad.
Oh God, look. You got me going crazy here.
We having fun.
It's a protein source. It is. I'm drawing a blank as to how it's made all of a sudden, but it is something you can use. I have literally made lots of things with the Impossible meat, but I'm trying to steer a little bit more clear of that because ingredient wise, it's not digesting very well in our systems. By studies show. So
okay.
I'll do a Impossible burger, or I'll make like an Impossible meatloaf once in a while. I do love meatloaf.
Meatloaf is fine.
Gravy from scratch. I love gravy. And if you can substitute your rice for quinoa, you in the right market.
Okay, I tried quinoa.
How was
it? I did. Though? I tried it. I didn't like it. Maybe
was it a side?
It was a side.
Oh, okay. No.
It was a side.
You can make it as fried rice.
See, rice is
rice.
Okay. See, there was a point in time in my life I was poor. Okay.
Oh, rice is survival food.
That's part of the thing.
Potatoes,
rice.
Survival.
I was poor, and I grew up on what is dubbed as butter and rice, or butter, sugar, and rice. Okay, that could be a whole meal 4 or 5 times a week, and I was cool with it. I'll go in there, get a pot, dump a bag of rice in there, put some water in there, sprinkle a little salt so it don't stick, call it a day, and I'm good, baby.
Yes.
I don't even need the sides, but if I wanted to have a meat with it, maybe I'll go and get some chicken.
Of course.
Maybe. Okay. Maybe, but I can eat it by itself and be good.
Mm-hmm.
So you are asking me to say what has been my best friend since I was a little kid. Rice has done nothing to me to deserve this. I refuse to replace it.
You don't have to.
Okay, good.
See? So if somebody came to me on like a
now, I will do brown rice, but it has to be with something.
Yeah.
But white rice has that. I'm gonna go home. And make some white rice with butter and sugar. I know.
Just because it sounds good.
Just because that's comfort food.
It is though, and I would always put a little hot sauce on mine, just a little bit. I like that spicy.
It depends on where you're from. Some people like the little hot sauce on it.
Yeah.
Sometimes people put cheese in their rice.
I never like cheese in my rice. I never like salt and pepper on my rice or my grits.
Okay. Wait a
was
minute.
the sugar one.
I do like sugar on my grits. Okay.
That
This
was
is
that.
going to determine if we're best friends for life.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Spaghetti with or without sugar.
No.
Okay.
Listen, you
we
can
are friends.
sprinkle a smidget to cut the acidity of your tomatoes, and that is it.
I don't even want my tomatoes acidity cut. I like my tomatoes as is. I grew up on fried green tomatoes, baby.
Oh, we were just talking about that at work the other day.
Okay.
See, now that's the thing about me. I'm a foodie, but I'm also vegan, so I will cook food. And my husband, I would literally make his friends try stuff. I've made vegan egg foo young.
That sounds wild.
It is spot on.
I didn't say it ain't good. It just said the concept sounds wild because the word egg is in it.
I know, eggless foo young. I will make food that is good as heck because I don't want you to know the difference. I don't want you to know.
So let me ask you this question.
I'll tell you though.
Why is it that vegan and vegetarians put so much effort into making their food that are supposed to not have any representation of an animal in it taste like a food that had animal in it?
Because we still enjoy it, but we want a healthier version.
Why not choose or create a new type of texture or flavor instead of copying the old one? Because maybe some people want something different. It's the mentality. If you cook mushrooms that taste like steak, the question is not let me stop eating steak because I can eat mushroom. The question becomes, why would I want to eat this when I could just have steak? But if you cooked mushrooms in a manner similar to steak, but it had its own unique flavor that still stood out on its own, now I'd be like, ooh, I had that. I liked how that tastes. Let me get that more often. Mm-hmm. It makes you want to gravitate towards it because it's new and it's unique. Yeah. But when you try to make something taste like what the original concept was, it doesn't always make us convert.
Always. Absolutely. So I agree with that. It doesn't always make you convert. And,
right.
And I don't think the goal was, well, not for me.
Like, stop lying. Because it's all the goal at the end of the day is always to make us convert.
Others, I just wanted them to know, oh, your girl can still cook.
Okay, so that's a different story.
That's really what it was. I just want to enjoy this. And let me tell you, vegans can be fat.
I know
you can be fat as a vegan. French fries is, like I told you, it's a food group.
Here's the thing, and I think this is I think this is the misconception, because I'm glad you said that vegans can be fat. I think the misconception is by going away from non-living foods that you're instantly supposed to start losing weight and become this bean pole. No, you are fat because of overconsumption and improper exercise. I can sit here and eat a non-meat diet 365 days a year, but if I am not going anywhere to burn off the food that I've eaten, I am no different than if I just sat here and ate a burger all day. The only difference is when I start the process to exercise, I can burn it off faster.
I'll counter that.
Okay, and talk to me.
The reason I'm gonna counter it is because that's exactly what I did. I didn't start exercising when I decided to go vegan. I just because to me, I don't like exercise. That's crazy for me to say, but I if I'm gonna work out, I'd rather be like dancing because it's a fun exercise.
Still motions though.
It is. So for someone to change your eating habits, if you change your eating habits by removing animal-based proteins, that means that everything inside your gut is gonna start to move and come out. That's going to decrease your gut. That's going to increase your metabolism, and it's going to give you more energy to then become more active. You can lose weight just by what you change in your diet.
True, you can, because just like I'm a heavy soda. Well, I used to be a heavy. I don't drink as much as I used to. Mm-hmm. But eliminating this alone eliminates the carbonated water, which then eliminates a lot of sugar, which just naturally on men. By switching to more of a water-based consumption, you'll drop weight easily. Yeah. It's one of the biggest arguments that's always happened, where a guy can sit here and drink water every single day and lose 10 pounds, where a woman can drink water every day and gain 10 pounds.
Yeah, our makeup is different.
Makeup is different in regards to that. But I also feel like, just like you said, you can change your diet, but if you're not flushing out your system, all it's doing is just you're still backed up. Mm-hmm. So it's still there. Yeah. So yes, your metabolism can go up because you don't have these meat byproducts that you have to eat because they're not foreign to it. Okay. But if you're still not doing something, you have to remember, we live in a day and age where people are not doing something in regards to it. Like I said, I have a desk job. Okay. I have a habit on my break. I get up, I purposely walk around. We used to have a whole building. Now we're just minimized to one floor. So I
Mm-hmm.
still try to make my laps around the floor
Mm-hmm.
when I used to make my laps around the building to go talk to all my people on different floors,
Right.
go down to the basement, come all the way back up. I got to walk something out. These knees get bad when they sit around all day.
Facts.
Most people don't do at least a minimum of that. Then you have your people that work from home. The most walking is from the TV to, well, the computer, I should say, not the TV, to the kitchen, to whatever they're going to do, to back where it is, and you're still inside the same building all day.
Mm-hmm.
So not only are you going stir crazy because you're in the same place all day, you have minimum motion in regards to why you're here.
Very true.
Not everybody's jumping on treadmills or on exercise bikes or going for walks on lunch breaks. Not everybody is doing that. And if they are doing that, about 3 weeks later, they stop. You see what I'm saying? Because they haven't built up a routine to
Yeah, I was
do
gonna
it.
say, you gotta
And then there's no
develop it as a
necessity.
habit.
And then let's look at the biggest issue here in Wisconsin. The minute we get cold, we don't want to go nowhere.
We ain't them nothing.
We don't do nothing. So if you don't already have these things in your house, you might as well say you gaining weight. Everybody gains weight in the winter.
Yeah.
Everybody gains
Oh,
weight
yeah.
in the winter.
But you know, what? Thank you for saying that. I'm gonna segue really quick. Now is the time for our bodies to decongest. We have been cooped up in our houses for winter. We have gotten that extra inflammation and stuff. Now it's time to clear that out. Now it's time to clear up and filter out our lymphatic systems. We are going through a lot of allergy issues right now just because of the season.
Right.
And anytime this happens, I always say, hey, watch out. Those dandelions are going to start popping up everywhere. Dandelions are one of the most used and sought after for helping with all of that cleansing.
I never knew that.
Filtering that out.
It just weeds to me.
Yes.
Mama had a baby and the head popped off. That's all we used to do.
Oh, because of the
Yeah, you just pop the top off in regards to
You
it.
can eat those
I'm
not
not-
the dandelion heads. You can make honey with those flowers. And you, with
Well,
leaves,
most
you
of the
can have a
time we
salad
used to
with
let the
that.
dandelions sit there long enough until they turned into the little
Blow 'em.
blowers.
Mhm.
What's those things called growing up? I don't remember.
I don't know why we wish on them when we blew.
Wishes. I think that's what they were called. I think they were called wishes. I don't know why.
Is it?
I don't know. I don't
See?
know. We used to do that. See, this is when the world used to be fun. Just
It
be able to
still
go.
is. See, that's
Okay, let me
fine.
take that back. I won't say the world is not fun. Let's say the world is different.
The
Okay.
world's crazy. How about
The world
that?
is different.
How about
The
that?
world is different, and I think the world is different is because before we used to see the world with innocent eyes. We were kids. We had no responsibilities. We didn't know what was going to be expected in life. When we were young, we just wanted to be high schoolers. When we want to be high schoolers, we just want to be adults. When we were adults, we just want to make it to 30. We make it to 30. Our little brothers thought we were old. That's what happened. Okay. Then we got to 30 and we realized life is really just beginning and we just fucked up 10 to 15 years of our lives because we didn't know no better. Okay.
Oh no. Yeah, man, your 30s is.
So when you
I'm
hit
in
your
it.
30s, you now either A, trying to recover from the mistakes that you made.
Yeah.
Okay. And mistakes that you've been made could be anything about financial situation, job choices, having kids at a young age. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying having kids at a young age is a mistake, but I guarantee you a lot of y'all, if y'all could take back having them
I'd have waited.
and waited, then it would be the answer will always be waited in most cases. So when you get to 30, now it's I need to be more stable. I need to make better choices. I need to fix credit. I just learned about credit. So now it's a lot of different things that we took for granted that we want to get back.
Mhm.
And because of that, we're trying to live life while repairing damages. Okay. This day and age, right now in the world, we are seeing every single mistake that our parents made, but unlike our parents, we're able to voice about them. And we're able to voice about them in a grander scale because there was no such thing as social media when our parents were in their 20s. Okay. There was no such thing as social media or hell, let's keep it a buck. There was no such thing as texting.
Yeah, it went on
when our kids were when our parents were teenagers.
Mhm.
So if you had a problem with something going on in your world and you lived on 10th and Center, only the people on 11th and Center and 9th and Center probably could have understood what just happened. Okay. But now I can have a problem right here in Sherman, Phoenix, and I can make people as far as Japan know what happened. Because the whole George Floyd, prime example. Imagine the world with this kind of access to information during the Rodney King situation.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Look at how much more of an impact it could have had, because now it's to the point where people don't even remember the Rodney King situation if you did not live during that time frame. Okay. It literally only truly comes up whenever police are in question or being tried for being overly aggressive in their job, and they get off. That's the only time we bring that up, because that was the first public time we had ever seen officers who clear as day overstep their boundaries get off.
Yeah, that's a solid point too.
Yeah.
It seems like
It's a whole nother tangent.
It seems like we as the world lived in ignorance unless you did see something for yourself until these cell phones came out, until you physically are showing proof that what I said, this is what happened.
Right.
And then all of the people who were just could not ever fathom or believe that something like that could happen, or like, and it makes them think, dang, they probably been telling the truth all this time. I don't know what it is, but I feel like us as Black people we're now looked at one of a few ways. One, we might snap off any moment and beat somebody up. I don't know why, but there's a lot of white people who are just scared to interact.
Because they know that they've had a history of doing us so dirty that they know if they were in our shoes, they would say something. So they know they're expected to get some form of retaliation based on their behaviors. A Karen doesn't know she's a Karen until someone reacts to her. Okay. As long as she's allowed to continue to be who she is, the way she wants to be, and never go checked, she's going to continue to have that manner. And the reason for that is because the men in her life allow her to do that, because it's easier for her to just let her do what she does and they remain in peace. Whereas if you do that to someone outside of her natural circle, they will get reacted to. And that reaction can be physical. And we don't care about the consequences. Most of the time we don't. Because I take a prime example. There was a young lady who was checking in the hotel. Okay. She was in the lobby. Either A, she was waiting for the rest of her party to come, or she was doing something in the lobby. But what she was doing in the lobby, the clerk at the front counter seen nothing wrong with it, because she is a resident in the hotel who has paid for her room and everything. This woman decided to come in, not even staying there, and regulate her behavior in the hallway as if she owned the hotel. The clerk specifically told her, ma'am, she's a resident here. She's staying in the hotel. She's perfectly okay with being in the lobby doing what she was doing. So the person who works there is telling you this.
Correction.
This woman chooses to still pose a problem. And as she commenced to walk out the door, still posing a problem, she decided to do something that could only be dubbed, you've done this before and got away with it.
Okay.
It led to her getting the skibbity paps put on her, to say it in so many words. Skibbity paps.
That 2 piece in a biscuit.
It would. I just got done eating, so I don't want no biscuit. But also depends on where the biscuit come from. But it definitely was a random secession that she deserved the ass whooping that she got. Okay. The thing about it was up until that moment, because you could tell how she acted after she got her ass whooped, she has never been checked before.
Oh,
okay.
There's plenty of those.
Right. And now a lot of time that needs to be done. A lot of people need to be checked and put in their place. But society lets certain situations get away with it because they think it's just fine. It's just what she does. It's okay. No. So now they live in fear, because we have no problem correcting people anymore. Sometimes we'll do it nicely. Sometimes we'll do it live and direct. The choice is yours of how you want to receive this information, but you're going to going to receive this information.
Yeah.
And that tends to be what the problem is a lot of times.
I always try to operate out of this is the older me. Now the younger me would I always try to operate out of a place of love. Okay. If I'm gonna give you some correction, I'm not trying to embarrass you. I'm not trying to cuss you out. Even though you might make me really angry, I'm like, listen, what you just did was wrong.
Right.
And you're so wrong, you don't even realize you're wrong.
Right.
Ma'am, I'm gonna need you to have a seat and really think about the fact you just walked in here and just did that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you almost gotta make where's the accountability for the fact I just walked in here to check a stranger that I don't know.
Exactly.
I had a situation like that with a landlord. We can air this or not. I don't mind because it was true.
We're getting ready to wrap it up in a minute. So.
Okay, cool.
So we'll do the story and then we'll call it that.
She's a Caucasian woman.
Okay.
Life is sweet for her.
She's from the mountain of Caucasus.
Okay. I had to call because I lost the keys.
Right.
My moving keys. This is only day 2.
Oh.
I had just bought a whole bunch of furniture all the way from downtown Milwaukee, all the way out to where I lived.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I know, right? So as I'm transporting stuff and loading the truck, my keys must have fell out of my pocket.
Makes sense.
Didn't even know. I get to the house, all this stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I'm looking everywhere. What do? You call your landlord and say, hey, I can't get in. Can you please come and let me in? We'll figure out the key situation another time. I can hear her in the back while I'm on the phone with her husband saying, hey, this is a situation. I'm telling him everything. Well, what's going on? Well, why isn't I just hear all these questions. So I'm thinking to myself, she's going to call me.
Right.
Moments, and I do mean moments later after I got the phone with her husband. He's on his way. Where are your keys? What do you think this is? How dare you? First of all, ma'am, I'm not irresponsible by any means. The keys fell out of my pocket unbeknownst to me. If the keys had a mouth, they would be like, hey, you just dropped me, pick me up. Cool. Right. But that wasn't the case. I had literally, I said, I'm not going to speak to you. I've already spoken to your husband. Right. We're going to end this conversation right here because I knew I was going to lose my mind. And my daughter was looking at me like, Mom, please don't lose your mind. But the next day I called her. I said, listen, I don't know where you find it okay to speak to a total stranger the way you spoke to me like I'm a child. Right. And I'm your child. Big you fact. Do not know me. You have never met me a day in your life. And I've only communicated with your husband. To call me, regardless if you're upset or not, is out of line.
Whoop his ass.
And furthermore, you will not engage with me that way again. We are both grown women. So if you got a problem, you're going to speak to me like you got some sense.
As they should.
And she was like, okay, fine. I said, and in response, I will keep your house clear and I will pay you your rent on time. And other than that, I don't need to speak to you.
That's the only thing that you're supposed to do.
That's the only thing you cared about. Cool. The only thing I cared about.
Okay.
Right. And since then, never had an issue, but there's a way to do it.
Right.
But I think, we harbor a lot of issues. We'd be angry.
What we're going to do, we're going to put a pin in that because it looks like we definitely going to have some conversation. I can talk too. That's why I said we're going to put a pin in that one. So we're going to go ahead and close out the episode right here because we've gone over our time. So I'd like to thank you for coming, joining us. We'll definitely have you back. Probably gonna have you on a couple of shows. Have some fun with us. So make sure you check us out on all streaming platforms, people. That's Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever else you listen to your podcast. Once again, make sure you download the app for Tone Deaf Radio and check out all the shows that are here on the station because it's Milwaukee's own pod station. So with that being said, we are out of here, people. Peace.